What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. It just seems like in many cases we're missing something, right? I just did a review of not just necessarily a video, but a philosophy. I did a review of a video and a philosophy, but it was the video where Dr. Umar Johnson was talking about polygyny as a potential cure all for the economic woes that black people experience in the wilderness of Northern America. And as I stated in that video, if you haven't checked it out, uh, you know, check it out for me. Let me know what you think. Feel free to comment on it. But in that video, I discussed some of the sort of logical fallacies that exist within the assumptions made and the biases of Dr. Umar Johnson and his claim. So, to kind of piggyback on that, I thought it might be interesting to discuss a couple of things because I brought up many things in that rebuttal, if you want to call it a rebuttal, right? Maybe it wasn't a rebuttal. Maybe I should do a rebuttal. Anyway, I brought up many things that kind of debunked and devalued that proposed solution to resurrect the greatness of black people, you know, economically. And so anyway, I was just thinking about it, and I was thinking about, okay, well, out of the things that are missing, what's the primary thing, or one of the primary things that I think should be addressed first? One of the things that he mentioned in that very same video was the fact that a lot of children are in single parent households. And I agree, as many of you do, that this is not ideal. I'm in a 2-parent household. I can't imagine not being able to get away from my kids for a few minutes. Not being able to take a sick day. I've been in situations, I won't say any names, but I've been to weddings where a single mother had to bring their child. And that child kind of got in the way of the fun that the single mother could have had. In some cases, in one case in particular, I knew of a single mother who left her child with someone. Nothing happened that I know of, at least, but it just never sat well with me that she left her child with someone who had, come to had come to the wedding had come to attend the wedding, left them with a stranger. It wasn't as if, at least I don't know if it's completely true, but it didn't seem like the child knew the people very well. And so it was more of a selfishness that I saw in this mother, that she was going to risk it, to leave her child with someone else, while she went and kind of shook her butt. I want to say something else, but and it just never sat well with me. However, looking back, there's a lot of grace. There's no real judgment there. There's judgment, but there's no real judgment, because at the end of the day, now having kids, I understand how difficult it is to have me time. How much more difficult is it to have me time if you are a single parent? But that leads me to my next, really the topic of discussion today, which is, I'm thinking about the untapped potential in these young men primarily, and young women, but young men, who are from single parent homes. Some men make it, right? But even then, how much better could it have been had there been one more voice? Or had there been a father? Let's just say that. Had there been a father. So, what are some of the benefits? What are some of the benefits of having a father? A father in the household? Well, there are many, we would assume, right? Which is an assumption again. Doesn't always work out that way. However, if there is no father, what are the benefits of having a mentor to these young men? What if there was en masse a cadre of men, primarily, hopefully, black men, who stepped up and played a role in the lives of a large number of young black men who were from single parent homes, young black boys. Sometimes I don't like that word boys, but young black men from single parent homes. Many of you don't know this, but I've been a mentor. As a matter of fact, I've volunteered my entire life, but for different things. But I have been a big brother for about over 10 years. Okay? And I'm not sure what type of impact I've had on this young man, because I don't know. I kind of don't know the delta. It's hard to tell what he would have been without me and what he is, versus what he is today. But I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of the fact that he's what I would call a serviceable young man of high moral character, who's just trying to do the right thing. I'd like to think that maybe I had something to do with that. Who knows what I had anything to do with, but I was there. If he needed to talk to me, I was there. I introduced him to Cologne. I helped him to learn how to ride a bike, even though he didn't ride it with me the first time. I spent weekends getting him to get over the fear of riding a bike. And then one day, weekends, man. And then one day he goes, his mother takes him to to a lake or something, and they meet up with other parents, and there are other fathers there. And that is the time he rides the bike. Kind of crushed my soul a little bit, because in some small way, it's almost as if the other father got the credit, But what I think I've helped him with in many ways is I've helped him cultivate a level of resilience. A level of resilience because we've kind of cut out, in many ways, what men do. We've kind of cut out a fear of failure. We're afraid to fail, of course, but there's kind of like this thing where we encourage each other to puff out our chest, pick ourselves up, and get after it. And men are also very good at pointing out small victories, which I've done with him. We don't tolerate bullshit, which sometimes mama does, or women do. And we try and analyze setbacks constructively. And so I think that's a benefit. Even though I'm not his father, I've helped him to overcome any sort of paralysis when it comes to trying things again, when it comes to kind confronting the fear of failure, right? That's just one thing. And again, to what degree, no one knows, right? And maybe it would have been better if he'd lived with me and I'd been his actual father. But when you look at who he is today, and had I never been there, he was always going to be from a single parent household. On top of the fact that, there are other things, there are other factors too that he's had to overcome. But with me there have been some things that that I think I helped him with. And so is this a more important request of the black community than polygyny? Would be one of my questions, right? We need to repair the community through the children. I think Dr. Umar was trying to say that polygyny was one way of repairing the community from an economic standpoint, and then also repairing the family with the presence of the right individual leading the children as by example, etc. But again, I'm not exactly sure if that would work. Another thing that I would say, I think is a benefit is when a man is present, or who knows? Who knows if this is exactly true? But if a man is present, I think we tend to enhance a child's self-worth. I talked about the small victories. I talked about overcoming fear. I talked about how we try and encourage children to demonstrate to themselves that there is no boogeyman. That there's nothing really stopping you. We try and demonstrate to them that they are prepared, and sometimes we try and demonstrate to them that they aren't prepared too. I've done that too. To teach people a lesson, especially when hubris is in the way of them learning the true value of a lesson. You might use it in a different way. It's a different kung fu tactic, mental judo. But for the most part, we try and enhance their self-worth to the point where there's no dependence on external validation. By pointing out what you've done, how you've succeeded, how you've overcome things, eventually you don't need the external praise in order to motivate you. You kind of develop a level of grit when you have what I would say a man in your life. So I think young men and the community would benefit from something like this. The other thing that is also interesting that I think would happen if this were the mandate as opposed to polygyny, and I think this is more niche, more specific. Polygyny, although beneficial in some ways, I can think of a few ways in which polygyny would be beneficial. I can think of a whole host of other ways in which, man, it would be a headache that no man really wants, especially in in America. But one of the ways in which, a third way in which, kind of went off on a tangent, a third way in which the mentorship program, quote unquote, for the black community would help is that it would unlock the potential without overwhelming overwhelming the child with life's challenges. Um, you, we just kind of help. I mean, I can name anecdotally. I can name several ways in which that happened. I can name ways in which that happens with my children. But you help the kid to see beyond the obstacle. You help them to play the game. If life is a game, or if life is viewed as a game, if it's Monopoly, if it's whatever it is, if you can get them to kind of like change their perspective and make it play and playful, then it's easier to see beyond. There's no extreme fear about what's going to happen to you, especially as a young person. I tell my children, I've never told my mentee this, but I tell my children that, and my children are very young, by the way, but I tell my children that you're in a simulation. Make your mistakes now. Get your math problems wrong now in the house. Get your, mispronounced words. Read your books. Learn all that you can learn now. Make your mistakes now. Try and gain as much knowledge as you can now, because it does not that it doesn't count, but you won't be judged for it. Of course, we're going to be tough. We're going to push. We're going to prod. We're going to ask questions. We're going to quiz. We're going to test. But I'm not giving a grade. Everything that I'm doing to help you is to sharpen you, to make you better. That's the only test. Are you better after we've gone through these multiplication tables, after we've memorized these definitions for geometry or statistics or whatever it is that they'd be involved in? Are you better as a result afterwards? And how committed and consistent can you be in learning this material? That's all. That's all I want for my children. And I think that's all any child would want. And it's harder for a single parent to like follow through on this, man, especially if they have more than one kid. The more kids you add to that, formula, man, the more difficult it becomes. But by adding in a mentor who is very specific about what they'd like to achieve, and if the community was very specific about what it hoped to achieve with the program, and it trained people, and it it vetted folks, the right people, got the right people in place, I think you could get remarkable results. Now, a part of what Dr. Umar is talking about and what he thinks he's going to do and what he's hoping to do with his school is he wants to basically mentor these young men at the school. That's what the school is about. It's a mentorship program, but he's the head mentor. Unfortunately, I don't think he's, when you think about the amount of money necessary to pull something like this off, and the lack of trust that may have developed already, because he's been raising money and trying to get this thing started for at least 10 years. We may never see it happen, but it's a very noble, I think, out of all of the things that he hopes to achieve, I think this is the most noble. The polygyny thing, probably not as important. I think that's more of a selfish thing. And I think it also, like I said before in the previous video, it is one of those things that most men don't have enough self-reflection to eliminate themselves from that pool of the some men who should be having multiple women. That some men is going to be all men. And not only that, they're not asking for anyone's permission. We don't have a council that grants permission to some men to be polygynous within our community. Wish we did, though. I wish we did have more rules as a community. I wish certain things were codified and understood. I think we'd get a lot further ahead if that were the case. But anyway, neither here nor there. Just wanted to, those are just some thoughts. Mentorship, I think, is more important than polygyny. And mentorship of black boys, mentorship of black girls is also important. I do feel, though, in some ways that I'm a bit more traditional in the sense that I do feel like the dearth of black masculine leadership, real masculine leadership, where there's a high moral character, kind of as the foundational base of all of that, I think that's missing from our community. And I think if we had more of that, we'd have more accountability, we'd have more loyalty, we'd have more, just about more of every virtue you can think of, more courage, we'd have more unity, we'd have more togetherness. So anyway, just some thoughts. If you have some thoughts on this as well, feel free to comment below. This thing kind of went on a little bit longer than I thought it might. But feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.